Welcome to the fifth episode of the Last Morhanite Concept Art. Today I wanted to go over the Camgamda, or as they're often referred to as the Blue Giants. So, I guess I should explain. So, in the context of the story, there have been, since the start of when humanity first started, there has been two major events that have happened. They're just called the Falls of Mankind. So the first one happened a really long time ago. And basically, the world was kind of reset. The second time, however, there was a great war, and it was a terrible war. Like, it was basically a free-for-all for all of the nations on the planet at the time, and they were just all going at each other. It was insane. Like, there was, like, if you think that World War II is bad, or World War III would be the greatest war of all, yeah, this one would probably be a lot worse because of just the sheer insanity of what was happening. There were nations intentionally setting off volcanoes so that they could hopefully choke out and freeze out all of their opponents. There was one nation that attempted to also choke out everybody else, but they created this red vapor, and it was a biological weapon. However, however, actually, to this day, that red vapor still exists. It all slowly descended into a huge canyon, and then that's where the sea of the red vapor is. Let's see. So for a lot of it was dark, and anyways, and a lot of people were killed. Like at that point, roughly 80% of all men were killed in combat. And at first, the war was pretty advanced, right? You had all sorts of machinery, all sorts of fancy tools and toys. However, towards the, I guess not a long time after it started, like, they ran out of energy. Or many nations started running out of energy, and they basically had to go back to just pure manpower. And so, towards the middle of it all, it was basically just trench warfare and all sorts of stuff. And this guy right here, Zakamn Han-Vidm, he's very important. You could say he's kind of like the Moses of this world. He was the great prophet visited by, where he was chosen by Rokn-hamedi to be his prophet. And this war was actually so bad that Rokn decided to step in and actually do something about it. And that's where these blue giants come from. He created 1,000 of these blue giants. 500 of them were male, and 500 of them were female. And, like, they were basically set up so that he could bring order to the world. He also lost his arm, if you haven't already noticed. That was interesting. One of the main weapons used by infantry at this point in time was a glass rifle. These weapons would shoot out shards of glass. And the hope was that even if you missed, the shards would still get embedded in the enemy's skin. And these shards of glass were usually poisoned. And he took one right to his right arm. And then they had to cut it off because the poison would kill him. They didn't have enough time to pull out the shards. So they just had to cut it off. Yeah, so I'm sure, as you can tell, the male ones, they were the fighters. This guy's an important one. His name is Zakamn Han. The giants, they all had they were all numbered. That was their name. This man's name, this giant's name was Belkabi, which is 147. He was number 147. And Bhakti, who I will show off in just a second, she was 630. That is what her name is, Bhakti. Belkabi. However, these Zamanon is from the divine language meaning something like the unbreakable one. And he's considered extremely special because his sheer force of will was greater than any other warrior known. He would just not give up. He was unrelenting. He was unstoppable. He was unbreakable. And then over here we have Bhakti. She was, as a female, she was a nurse, a sort of healer to go heal the wounded. However, she's special because she was caught up in an ambush. And there were several other Camgamda females there too. However, they didn't have any. It wasn't expected that there would be any attack, but there was, and she was the only remaining one. Yeah, she. Let me grab it. Let's see. She was the only survivor, and she fought back through a whole night. And this is her later. So this is her later on in the story. Towards the present time, here's more common. He's kind of upset because he's so short. But basically, you can still see all the wounds and stuff. And she lost 2 of her eyes in the fight. It was a very tragic day, but she was hailed as a great hero for it. Grip. Well, I guess I also had one. I was drawing this concept art, but I never finished it. But basically, at the end of the war, here's a Zakamn. Towards the end of the war, the dark skies were cleared. Here's just Rokn. He's just watching. Kind of wanted it to be like a sort of movie poster, I guess, but I haven't finished it. Anyways, the great Simorg flew across the sky, or so the holy scriptures say, and cleaned the air. And that's kind of what we see here. I didn't finish it, and I didn't really know what to do. But anyways, come on, man. Let me go back. Well, let me tell you one last thing about these Camgamda. So at the end of the conflict, after order was restored and the world was cleaned to a livable degree, the Camgamda had a choice. They could either choose to be reincarnated as proper human beings, or they could choose to remain as they are, as the Camgamda. Now, let's see, most of the Camgamda chose to be reincarnated. However, there were a number of those who chose to stay as the Camgamda, or stay as they are, and one of them was Bhakti. She chose to remain, primarily after the ambush that she fought through. She felt that it would be very necessary in order to. It would be a very good thing if she were to stay on the earth, so that she may continue her duties that she was created with. However, Belkabi Zamanon over here, he chose to be reincarnated. And in fact, he reincarnates to be a very important character. I won't tell you which one, because it would be spoilers. But he is very interesting because his death is interesting. So he was tasked to go lead a band of defectors from an enemy nation to the side of Zakamn Han-Vidm over here. However, the enemy were a lot faster and a lot stronger than anticipated, and they only sent Belkabi because they thought it would just be a simple mission. However, that didn't quite pan out, and he was mutilated horribly. However, even though his legs were broken, he was missing an arm, and his other arm was broken, he still continued to fight on. He beheld a great vision from, or I guess, great moral support from Rokn-hamedi himself. And during the slaughter, as he was trying to protect the defectors, he basically asked Rokn that if he was to die, that his sword should remain on the earth. Sorry, I got distracted. What was I saying? Oh, so during the carnage that ensued, he prayed that his sword should remain on the face of the earth until it is needed again. And that wish was granted. And let me find it. And the sword is the same sword that Morkamen would get several thousand years later. The Sword of the Azure Gale. Although it's not sized properly, but I suppose we could say, since it's a divine sword, it can adjust to the size that the user needs. Or I guess the size proper to the user. But yeah, I guess I should mention, they are very scary. Like, even the female ones, which are not nearly as physically robust as the male ones, like, they'll still rip your spine out with one hand. They're very scary. And it just shows just how scary they are as Belkabi is fighting to his last breath when he's completely wounded, basically to the point of uselessness. At least for the normal human being. He still carried on. And he carried a sword by the mouth and charged with broken legs. Wish I could animate this crap, but I don't think I have the skills to do that. But I guess anyway, that's all I have to say about the Camgamda.